Ladies and gentlemen, rejection, that sharp sting you feel when someone doesn't respond, doesn't choose you, doesn't even acknowledge your presence. It feels personal, like a direct hit to your self-worth. You start questioning everything, your looks, your value, your words, your worth. And yet, here's the brutal truth no one ever tells you. Rejection is rarely about you. It's almost always about them. You weren't rejected because you weren't enough. You were rejected because you were offering something they weren't ready to receive or didn't have the capacity to appreciate. See, people respond based on where they are, not on who you are. Someone emotionally unavailable will walk away from depth because they're not capable of handling intimacy. Someone insecure might push away someone confident because it threatens their fragile sense of self. And someone immature may ignore you because they lack the tools to communicate like an adult. But here's where it gets messy. We internalize their reaction. We assume their silence is evidence of our unworthiness. We believe their lack of interest is proof we're not desirable. We chase validation from someone who couldn't even recognize value if it stood in front of them, waving a neon sign. And that's the trap. When someone ignores you or dismisses you, your first instinct is to adjust, to become more likable, more attractive, more wanted. You start shrinking yourself to fit into their comfort zone. You twist yourself to match their preferences, hoping that maybe, just maybe, they'll finally see you. But what if the problem was never that they couldn't see you? It's that they weren't capable of looking beyond themselves. The truth is, we all live in our own reality. That person who ghosted you might be battling their own insecurities, carrying unhealed baggage, or playing games because that's all they know. Their silence is a mirror reflecting their emotional limits, not your emotional lack. Think about it. Have you ever met someone amazing, but just not at the right time? Or maybe you weren't in a place to appreciate a good thing when it came along? That's not because they weren't good enough. It's because you weren't ready. It works both ways. Sometimes rejection is the universe protecting you from a connection that would have drained you, diminished you, or distracted you from your growth. And here's something else to hold on to. Truly confident people, the ones who are emotionally stable and secure in themselves, don't reject in silence. They communicate, they respect, they are honest about what they feel and what they're looking for. So if someone disappears, if they ignore you, if they walk away without explanation, understand this: that is not a reflection of your worth. That is a reflection of their emotional bandwidth or lack thereof. You didn't get rejected because you were too much. You got rejected because you were more than they were ready for. And that's not a flaw. That's a compliment in disguise. So stop making their silence mean something about you. Stop letting someone else's immaturity rewrite the story of your self-worth. Rejection isn't always a closed door. Sometimes it's divine redirection. And the sooner you stop chasing people who don't see your value, the sooner you'll attract the ones who never make you question it. Remember this: their inability to choose you is not your inadequacy, it's their limitation. And that changes everything. When someone ignores you, it feels like the loudest silence in the world. It's not just the absence of a reply, it's the echo of 1,000 questions in your mind. Did I say something wrong? Did I come on too strong? What did I do? But here's the reality that's hard to accept and even harder to live by. Silence is a message, a loud one, and it says more than any text ever could. We grow up believing that communication always looks like words. We think if someone has a problem, they'll say it. If they like us, they'll show it. If they want us, they'll act like it. But people aren't that simple. People are messy. People avoid discomfort. People run. And sometimes they communicate not through what they say. When someone consistently ignores your texts, delays their replies, watches your stories, but never initiates conversation, that's communication. It's saying you're not a priority. It's saying I'm keeping you close enough to feel wanted, but far enough to avoid responsibility. It's saying I want the attention, not the connection. and you need to learn how to read that language. The problem is, most of us don't want to hear the truth. Their silence is screaming. We make excuses. We say they're busy. We convince ourselves they're just bad at texting. We lower our standards because we're afraid of walking away. We fear that if we stop trying, they'll disappear. But here's what you're missing. They already have. Emotionally, mentally, energetically, they've already checked out. You're the only one still holding on to the hype that maybe silence doesn't mean no, but it does. Silence is a boundary. It's them choosing to give you less and hoping you'll still stay. And every time you justify it, every time you text again, every time you stay quiet, just to not make a big deal, you teach them one thing. They can treat you like an option and still have access to you, that you deserve better than being someone's backup plan. The truth is, when someone is genuinely interested in you, you won't be confused. You won't have to guess. You won't have to overthink every word you send or feel anxious every time your phone lights up. People who care show up. People who want to build something real make you feel seen, not invisible. So stop romanticizing mixed signals. Stop glorifying the person who only reaches out when they're lonely or bored. If someone can go days without talking to you, if they can watch you crave connection while they serve you silence, they are telling you exactly how much they're willing to give. Believe them. Learning to read silence is a skill, and it's a painful one to master. But once you do, you become unshakable. You stop begging for breadcrumbs. You stop trying to decode someone who doesn't even care enough to speak clearly. You stop settling for people who only show up when it's convenient for them. You don't need closure from someone who disappeared. Their silence was the closure. Their inconsistency was the answer. Their lack of effort was the message. And it was loud and clear if you're willing to listen to what isn't being said. So the next time someone ignores you, don't take it as a cue to try harder. Take it as a sign to pull back, to protect your energy, to honor your own worth, because silence speaks, and now you know how to listen. Traction is one of those things we wish we could control. We think if we look better, say the right things, play it cool but not too cool, or mirror someone's preferences just enough, we can earn their interest. But here's the unfiltered truth. Attraction isn't negotiable. You can't force it, you can't bargain for it, and you definitely can't convince someone to feel it. When someone isn't into you, it doesn't matter how many good traits you have. You could be kind, intelligent, funny, loyal, and they still might not choose you, not because you're lacking, but because connection is chemistry, it's energy, it's timing, and most of all, it's alignment. If someone has to be persuaded to see your value, they were never your match to begin with. But most of us don't want to accept that. We think, if I just say the right thing, if I'm more patient, if I give them space, maybe they'll come around. So we keep trying, we chase, we shrink, we perform, we pour our energy into being more desirable, not realizing that anyone who makes you work that hard to be seen is already telling you they're not the one. Let this sink in. Real attraction doesn't need to be convinced. Real connection doesn't feel like a job interview you're afraid to fail. It doesn't keep you on edge or stuck in overthinking loops. When someone truly wants you, they make it obvious. They show up, they engage, they invest, not just with words, but with consistent action. You have to understand people know what they're doing. If someone is ignoring you or sending mixed signals, it's not because they're confused. It's because they're comfortable letting you hang in uncertainty. They're okay benefiting from your presence while giving you nothing clear in return. And if you allow that, you're sending a message too, that you're willing to stay where you're not wanted. This is where your power comes in. Your job isn't to persuade someone to feel something. Your job is to observe, to pay attention to effort, to step back when you're met with indifference. Because walking away from someone who doesn't choose you isn't weakness, it's emotional maturity, it's self-respect. Think about it. The most magnetic people are the ones who don't force, they don't beg, they don't cling to someone who doesn't see them. Why? Because their value isn't tied to someone else's preference. They know that attraction is either there or it's not. And if it's not, they move on quickly, quietly, without drama. That's the shift. Instead of obsessing over how to make someone want you, start asking why you want someone who clearly doesn't. Instead of focusing on how to be more attractive to them, focus on what makes them worthy of your time, your energy, your loyalty. Attraction can't be negotiated, but your standards can be. And too many people are out here lowering theirs just to be tolerated by someone emotionally unavailable. So here's the bottom line. Stop trying to win over someone who isn't even playing the same game. You're not here to beg for affection. You're not here to chase attention. You're here to connect with someone who sees you, chooses you, and never makes you guess how they feel. If they don't feel it, set them free. And more importantly, set yourself free. We've all done it. Checked our phones 100 times hoping they replied. Reread old messages looking for clues. Wondered if we said too much or not enough. And beneath all that overthinking is one quiet, painful need: validation. You stop chasing people who give you the bare minimum. You stop obsessing over someone who doesn't reply. You stop feeling like you have to earn someone's attention. Instead, you start showing up from a place of wholeness, not hunger. And here's the beautiful twist. When you no longer need someone to choose you to feel worthy, you end up attracting people who actually do. Because you're not attaching from fear, you're connecting from truth, from strength, from alignment. The person who sees you, really sees you, won't make you beg for attention. They won't play games. They won't confuse you. They'll meet you where you are because you've already done the work to meet yourself. And no, you don't need them to reply to feel okay. You don't need to hear "I miss you" to believe you matter. You don't need their attention to feel complete. You just need to remember who you are. And that kind of self-reminder, that's the loudest, most unshakable form of validation there is. There's a certain kind of pain that comes from caring too much about someone who treats you like an afterthought. And when that happens, when you're being ignored or led on, your natural instinct might be to do more, reach out again, prove your worth, fix whatever you think you did wrong. But the truth is, the real power move isn't chasing, it's not proving, it's indifference. Because here's the brutal truth. The person who can walk away from a situation without flinching has the most control. Not control over the other person, control over themselves, control over their emotions, their reactions, their time, their energy. And when someone ignores you, when they leave you hanging or play hot and cold, the most magnetic, powerful response is calm, confident, indifferent. Indifference doesn't mean you don't feel. It doesn't mean you're cold or heartless. It means you refuse to let someone else's inconsistency dictate your peace. It means you're no longer available for emotional chaos disguised as chemistry. It's choosing to prioritize your self-respect over temporary validation. The truth is, when someone realizes you're emotionally reactive, they learn they can push and pull you at will, that they can disappear and come back and you'll still be there, waiting, that they can breadcrumb you with just enough attention to keep you hooked and you'll continue to play along. But when you stop reacting, when you stop texting back instantly, when you stop engaging with their mind games, that silence becomes powerful. That calm detachment becomes your armor, because nothing is more disarming than someone who refuses to beg for attention. Nothing is more unexpected than peace in the face of emotional chaos. And nothing confuses someone who thrives on control more than your complete indifference to their inconsistency. This isn't about manipulation. This isn't about winning. It's about protecting your energy. Because every time you react to someone's hot and cold behavior, you give them power. You let their chaos infect your clarity. But when you stay grounded, when you don't flinch, when you smile and carry on without chasing, that's when the dynamic shifts. You become untouchable to people who feed on insecurity. You become a mystery to people who expected you to beg. And you become magnetic to the ones who respect self-worth, not self-sacrifice. Here's the thing. Not everyone deserves access to your emotional world. Not everyone should be able to disrupt your peace with their silence or inconsistency. And the more you grow, the more you realize you don't need closure, attention, or approval from someone who treats your presence like a convenience. Indifference is freedom. It's not apathy. It's emotional mastery. It's what happens when you realize your value doesn't rise or fall based on someone else's ability to recognize it. It's knowing that the right people don't need to be chased, that love doesn't come wrapped in confusion, that interest doesn't come in waves. So let them wander. Let them feel the absence of your reaction. Let them face the silence they once weaponized. And you move forward with grace, with focus, with the kind of confidence that doesn't need an audience. Because in a world full of noise, desperation, and games, indifference is your power. Quiet, calm, unshaken, and completely, undeniably in control. Everyone talks about love like it's the final destination, like the end game is getting the person, the relationship, the commitment. But here's the truth that will set you free. Your peace is more valuable than any person. Let that sink in. Because most people spend years, even decades, trading their peace for attention, for validation, for relationships that feel more like emotional roller coasters than love story. We stay in situations where we're half seen, half chosen, and fully exhausted because we're afraid to let go. We convince ourselves that the chaos means passion, that the pain is part of the process, that maybe if we just hold on a little longer, it'll get better. But peace doesn't make you feel like you're constantly fighting for your place in someone's life. Peace doesn't leave you staring at your phone, questioning your worth. Peace doesn't show up as inconsistency wrapped in excuses. And yet we overlook it. We overlook peace because it's not flashy, because it doesn't trigger our wounds or activate our survival mode, because we're used to thinking love has to be intense to be real. But that's just trauma bonding in disguise. Real love, the kind that lasts, comes with safety, with calm, with clarity. And that starts with you choosing peace before you choose anyone else. Think about this. How many times have you sacrificed your peace just to keep someone in your life? How many nights have you spent overanalyzing, replaying conversations, wondering what went wrong? How much energy have you given to people who wouldn't even lift a finger to meet you halfway? That's the cost, and it's too damn high. Your peace is your power. It's your ability to walk away from anything that disturbs your inner world. It's your refusal to argue for your value. It's your ability to say, I love you, but not at the cost of myself. That's not cold. That's self-respect. That's growth. That's what healing looks like. People will test it. They'll try to pull you back into old patterns, inconsistency, manipulation, emotional crumbs. But when you've tasted peace, you can't unsee it. You start to recognize the difference between someone who adds to your life and someone who drains it, between love and attachment, between connection and control. And here's the most powerful shift. When you stop chasing people and start choosing peace, you naturally attract relationships that feel like home, not like war zones. You stop begging for clarity. You stop needing closure. You stop making excuses for people who can't meet you where you are. Instead, you sit in your stillness, knowing that what's meant for you will never require you to lose yourself. You don't have to be hard. You don't have to play games. You just have to be clear. Clear about your standards, clear about your needs, clear about your boundaries, and most of all, clear that your peace is not up for negotiation. Because the truth is, no connection, no matter how intense, exciting, or nostalgic, is worth losing your inner calm. Not when you've worked this hard to find it, not when you know what it costs to live without it. So when someone comes into your life, ask yourself, do they bring peace or do they bring noise? If it's noise, you already have your answer. Protect your space, protect your heart, and above all, protect your peace. Because once you do, everything else falls into place. This is your wake-up call. The silence, the mixed signals. But you're done with that now. Because here's what no one tells you. The moment you stop waiting for someone else to choose you, you become dangerous in the best way possible. You start walking different. You stop performing. You stop shrinking. You realize that their indifference didn't mean you weren't enough. It meant they weren't ready for someone like you. You were never too much. You were never too intense. You were never too complicated. You were simply trying to give depth to someone who was only living at the surface. And that's not your burden to carry anymore. Now it's about you. It's about turning inward, not in sadness, but in power. Rebuilding the relationship you have with yourself. No longer needing to be validated to feel visible. No longer chasing a ghost of who they could be. And finally, accepting who they really are and choosing you instead. You become untouchable when you learn to live without the very thing you once thought you couldn't. That's real power, not the kind that dominates, but the kind that doesn't need to beg, the kind that doesn't flinch, the kind that moves in silence, with grace, with certainty. You start showing up in rooms like you belong there, because you do. You stop checking your phone for that one message because you know your peace doesn't depend on it. You start carrying yourself like someone who's already whole because you just forgot for a minute. You are not here to prove yourself to someone who doesn't even know what they want. You are not here to fight for a place in someone's life when they don't even make room for you. You are not here to be a backup plan, an almost or a temporary distraction from someone else's loneliness. You're here to connect deeply, live fully, love fearlessly, but never at the expense of yourself, never again. So let them go, let them wander, let them feel the silence they once gave you. But most of all, let yourself rise. Step into the version of you that no longer waits for closure, for clarity, for someone else to finally realize your value.